everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Roderick. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Please introduce yourself and the name of your business.
Sure. So my name is Adam Rojas, and I am the founder and managing partner of Bellmoore Consulting.
Awesome. We so look forward to learning more about what you're helping businesses with. And before we do that, though, we want to learn a little bit more about your journey. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Where to begin? So if you ask my mother, I have been a salesperson my entire life.
Okay.
I was 5 or 6, kindergarten, first grade. I would peel the stickers off of papers and sell them to the other kids in class.
Oh, my goodness.
I took that money. I bought NFL pencils. You know, back in the 80s, there were only 30 teams. Bought pencils, resold those off to the other kids. So I was like a budding entrepreneur as a young man. And then my first kind of like actual paid sales job, I was 15, 16. I was a telemarketer calling for magazine subscription renewals. Okay. So here's Adam at 15, 16. We're talking late 90s, or late 80s rather, sorry. And so I'm calling you at 6 p.m. your time.
Yes.
So right when you are sitting down to dinner, would you like to renew car and driver, Roderick?
Yes.
You know? So that, I think, from a personal perspective, really built a lot of resiliency. Okay. Because no is probably the most polite thing I heard from people.
Yes.
So I did the typical sales jobs, retail, that kind of stuff. And then when I graduated college, it's like, you know what? This sales thing's, I like it. And so I went to work in small business sales for Bell South. Okay. So I was down in Fort Lauderdale doing small business sales. Did that pretty well. Then I had the opportunity to meet a really amazing sales leader up here in Atlanta. And he's like, can you come run a sales team for me? Okay. I said, sure. So kind of over the next 15 years, I was either a direct seller or running sales organizations in Bell South, which then, as you know, became AT&T. So I had small businesses, mom and pop companies who were buying long distance DSL and local. That's kind of how far back I go. And then I progressed up through the ranks, finally finishing in the enterprise space, where I was selling to huge multinational corporations, these networks that were global in range. So and everything in between. Okay. But sales is a tough life, and global sales especially is really challenging and takes a lot of time. And so after about 15 years of that, my kids were starting to grow up, and I was starting to miss things. Okay. And so I got out of sales, and but I wanted to stay in AT&T, and I wanted to stay close to sales. So I moved into sales training. Okay. And I trained salespeople for AT&T, new hires, experienced sellers, and it was great because it kept me close to the sales game, but I also had that credibility with salespeople, especially experienced salespeople, because I could deliver a training to them, and they would really see that I knew what they were doing. I wasn't just a trainer who came in without experience. I could talk the talk and walk the walk. And I did that for about 5 years, and then they said, we've got this gap, like. We have these great training programs, and then we got sales over here, and it's not resonating. And so they said, we need somebody who can come in and bridge the gap. And so I moved into a strategy role where I'd work with the business leaders across AT&T sales and really help identify where the challenges were and build sales training programs for that. And so that I did that for the remainder of my AT&T career. Okay. Now,
that's a big transition, going from being a salesperson, an independent salesperson, to getting the sales team. I wanted to stop there for a second and talk a little bit about how were you able to make that transition? What were a couple of the challenges and how you overcame them?
I was very blessed. My first sales manager back with the Bell South, was a guy named Billy. And Billy was the type of manager who wasn't a manager. He was a leader. Okay. You would walk through fire for Billy. And so when I transitioned from seller to sales leader, I went to Billy and I said, show me, teach me, mentor me, give me the guidance. And that's where I really started to build those skills of everybody's an individual. There's not a cookie cutter way to manage a team.
Right.
You've got to figure out what everybody on your team does well and how do you accentuate that and figure out where their challenges are and how do you mitigate that and do it in a very personalized approach.
Yes.
And yeah, it didn't happen overnight, but Billy was fantastic and gave me a lot of guidance and would talk through problems with me. And then I had another sales leader, Ed, who sadly has passed away, who kind of reinforced that idea that you are, as a leader, you are the buffer between what's outside and your team. And so you are always going to have your team's back and support them. And that's really the skills that I took throughout the course of my sales leadership. And it's quite frankly what, and we'll talk about what I'm doing now in a couple minutes, but it has blended into what I do now and how I do what I do. So.
Yeah. I'm looking at that and I'm trying to put together the pieces, and it makes a lot of sense on what it is that you do now, because you went from sales, actually doing it, to leading the team, and then you transition into training. Tell us a little bit about that experience when you went into training, trying to get salespeople that you probably knew to listen to you on new ways to go about selling.
Yeah, it was a really interesting time because part of my job was training new hires. So we would bring in these college students, fresh college graduates, and have to teach them how to sell and teach them about not just the process of selling, but the products and how you implement that. And so that had a lot of challenges because these were people who had no background in anything we did. So they didn't understand the technology of what AT&T sold. They didn't understand how to sell, although some of them thought that they did, and trying to teach a 23, 24-year-old sometimes is a bit of a challenge. I know because I have a 23-year-old, so I get it. And the other thing that was such an amazing thing, and I talked earlier about the resiliency I built as a young man, but the challenge of resiliency that I saw in these young people was it was a skill they just didn't have because it hadn't been nurtured in them. Resiliency is something that requires practice and falling flat and getting up and rebuilding.
Yes.
And sadly, many people don't have that. Many young people sadly don't have that. And so we would work with them on, customers aren't always going to say yes.
That's a fact.
And you got to deal with rejection.
Right.
And so teaching them the skills of that. So that was one of the challenges. Then, the other challenge was these sellers, some of whom I had sold with or who I'd led, seeing me as the expert and getting them to understand that there was a new way of doing things.
Right.
I remember delivering one class to sellers, and it was a 6-month-long program, but there was only 2 days where you were actually in class, but I was teaching it for 6 solid months to different sellers, and it was all about how to transform the way you were selling and pivot the conversations. And I would get this new crop of sellers, and some of them had 30 and 40 years of experience. And they're like, there is nothing I am going to learn in this 2 days.
Yes.
You're just another talking head that AT&T brought in. But what they soon realized is, Adam did what we did. Adam understands. And without fail, these same ones that would say, this is a waste of my time, they would come up to me at the end of the class and say, I learned something, I can put it into practical applications.
Yes.
It was a challenge, right? Because you had to meet them where they were.
Right.
And really, again, kind of understand, just as you do as you're leading a team, understand the different personalities and be able to draw things out. You knew who your talkers were, you knew who your listeners were, and just pull that out of them.
Yeah. That's because you went into it thinking about building a personal relationship with each and every person and meeting them where they were. It sounds like that transition where you were was that moving away from putting them in the red and then going to the discovery fact finding. I know that was a challenge for us on my end of AT&T, because they were like, no, you got to push them to the red and then bring them back. And then they changed and said, no, do the discovery.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a difference, but I understand where you are. So in this particular chapter, seems like we're about 25 years into our AT&T chapter, and things are about to get ready to change. What was happening during that transition after the sales training?
So this was 2023. Mm-hmm. COVID had happened. I was virtual before COVID, but COVID had happened, and you had a lot of the whole return to office. We had a lot of restructuring at AT&T and downsizing. And so I was hitting that point.
Okay. Now, I understand things were starting to bubble in a different direction. Was there an event that happened that made you say, you know what, I'm going to burn the ship and go all in on my own deal?
It was. You've seen the movie Perfect Storm with George Clooney, right?
Watched it this weekend.
Did you? Okay, yes. So 3 different events coming together at once, right? Was kind of what happens in the Perfect Storm. Mm-hmm. Well, that was really what happened with me in my burn the ship moment.
Okay.
I was burnt out.
Okay.
Leadership challenges, process challenges. I didn't feel like I was being given the tools to be successful. You partner that with a return to office, and for me, it was a drive, not just to return to the office, but to move to Dallas.
Okay.
So I had just gotten remarried.
Dallas, Texas.
Okay. Yeah, not Dallas, Georgia.
Right.
Dallas, Texas.
I get it.
So cowboy boots and hats.
Yes.
And I had just gotten remarried and bought a house with my new wife and stuff like that. So you had these 2 things. And then at the same time, I had a really awesome friend who had started a business about 2 years before and said, can you just come spend a couple days with us and see what we're doing?
Yeah.
And I realized in that couple of days that he was running his business by the seat of his pants.
Okay.
He had no structure, he had no plan, he had no strategy. And coming from a world where we do everything with a structure and everything with a plan and everything with a strategy, I was like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? He's like, because I don't know any better. Mm-hmm. And so it was that perfect storm of all these three things coming around that said, you know what, Adam, it is time for you to leave what you're doing. And my wife was super, super supportive. I could not have done it without her. Mm-hmm. But leave what you are doing and go out and help small businesses grow and scale and succeed using the skills that you've put together. It reminds me of that moment in Taken. I've acquired a certain set of skills over a lifetime.
Yes.
That's what I did. I knew I could put those certain set of skills to the benefit of these small business entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And so I was like, you know what? We're just gonna go all in, push my chips to the middle of the table, burn the ship.
And here we go.
Here we are, almost 2 years later.
Awesome. Hey, listen, I always say congratulations to all of my business owners and managing partners, because it does take a lot to get out there on your own, especially in our case, because I was in AT&T for many years too, and it is a nice corporate umbrella. It keeps you out of the rain.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it doesn't let you go. You know how that goes. I ain't gonna talk about it, but it is cool. You got your benefits, you got a set amount of money, and it's decent money. You were there for 20-some years. I was there for 11, so I know mine was fun. But, there is more out there. So we want to learn a little bit more about that more. So tell us all about your business and what you do.
Yeah, so as I said, I've developed this set of skills that really are important to every business. Mm-hmm. And whether you know it or not, it's an important part of every business. And so that's what I do is I work with predominantly owner founders who are struggling to grow their business, struggling to scale, and they've tried marketing, they've tried these other sorts of things, and it's just not getting them the traction. And the reason they're not getting the traction is because in a lot of cases, they're flying by the seat of their pants. And so I work with them on how to build a really solid sales strategy and sales process that fits their business. It's not a cookie cutter process. It's not a, here is the book, go follow this and you'll be successful, because your business is different than my business is different than their business. And so it's, how do I build a start to finish process that gets me from identifying a customer to closed and a referral customer, or whatever my business happens to be, right? And all of the stages in between. And then once we put a process in place, now how do I give you those skills to handle each stage of the process? What does identifying a customer look like in your world? How do I qualify, or more importantly, disqualify a customer? I'm sure you see this all the time. People chase opportunities that have no chance of ever becoming a sale.
That's right.
And they're so afraid of losing that opportunity that they don't want to disqualify them.
Yeah, disqualify them, or do a very important thing, which is disengage. You have to disengage. You got that special thing, which is your time, and you have to let it go.
You know, I don't think I made this up, but I had told people for years, time is the one commodity you can never get back. I can always make more money. I can never make more time.
That's a fact.
And so, yeah, it's about getting that time back to redirect on what's going to be more effective. So we work on, how do I identify? How do I qualify? Then discovery. So many people are challenged in discovery of not just asking questions, but asking the right questions, digging deep enough. And so we work on discovery processes that, again, are specific to your business, so that you walk away with, okay, so now I know everything I need to put a proposal together, and I understand they have budget, that the person I'm talking to has the authority. There's a need there. There's some timing there. All of those sorts of things, so that I have an effective proposal.
Right.
Then it's, how do I propose and close? What is my presentation style? How do I overcome objections? So we teach all of those sorts of things. That really is a lot of the foundational work that I do. With many of my clients, I help them with go-to-market strategies for specific products that they're trying to launch or relaunch. You know, to me, everything needs to be documented. It doesn't need to be a 50-page document, but you've got to have things written down.
Yes.
Because otherwise, how do you know if you've followed the stages of the process?
Right.
You know, it's really easy to fall into a trap of missing things when you don't document it. Go-to-market strategy is a perfect example of that, having that solid go-to-market strategy. And then ideally, these businesses, they want to scale, they want to grow. At some point, you're going to have to bring in salespeople to do that.
Yes.
How do I train them effectively? I help them with that. How do I teach you to be the best sales leader you can be, so that you can run that organization? Because you don't want me running your organization for you. Maybe you do, and I can do that, but that's not sustainable for a long period of time.
Yes.
I would much rather give you the skill set as that founder to run the organization, get it to that $5-10 million range, and then you bring in a sales VP or somebody like that, who then you as the owner can step back.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Now, you seem to be very engaging with your people. I know about the discovery. Like I said, I know that's something they just pounded into our brain, so I know the importance of it. Tell us a little bit geographically. Do you want the clients to be in this particular area, or can they be in other parts of the country? Tell us about that.
Sure. I work with clients across the country, from Atlanta to Right now, my farthest west is Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
So I can work with clients anywhere. The funniest thing is the clients that I work with here in the Atlanta area, I probably meet with them once every couple months.
Okay.
Because Atlanta traffic.
Yes,
it can take you 2 hours to get from one end of Atlanta to the other.
Know, right?
So we have these wonderful tools, and there's really nothing that can't be done virtually.
Okay.
I love being in front of my clients and I love working with them in person, but it's not a gots to have sort of process.
Always trying to build the best up for you so people who are watching today know that, hey, if I'm over here in Seattle, he can still get me squared away. Yeah. Now, another thing that
and I'm happy to travel someplace.
Yes.
I've been to New York to go visit clients. I'm heading to Puerto Rico in a couple weeks to work with a client down there. So,
Hey, listen, I just want to make sure they know.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that happened when you were getting ready for your podcast, we had the last podcast come out and you knew that particular person.
Yes.
My next question is, are there specific referral partners that you like to get out in front of to build relationships with?
So it seems that most of my referrals come from marketing people.
Okay.
Fractional CMOs, that sort of people, because the challenge that they're trying to solve for is the challenge of how do I get customers to the front door?
Okay.
And a marketing person can do a great job of getting customers to the front door, but if that customer can't get from the front door to the cash register, what's the value of that prospect?
That's right.
And so they bring me in a lot of cases where they're filling the funnel with leads at the top end. It's that middle and bottom of the funnel where their customer has the challenge.
Okay.
And so they will oftentimes engage with me. I had one just last week bring me into a prospect for that exact same reason.
Okay.
Pardon me, because their prospect or their client wasn't converting leads into sales.
Okay.
And so that was a bad reflection on them as the marketing person.
That's right.
But that's not really a marketing problem. So yes, long answer to a short question. Marketing folks are great referral partners for me. Business coaches are great referral partners for me because they're working on the broader aspect of the business. Their specialty is probably not to the detail-oriented and tactical level that I get into. I work strategically with my clients, but I also work tactically with them.
Yes.
So it's creating the sales process and the program and documenting it, but it's also, I have clients who send me their Zoom discovery calls.
Okay.
Do a review of their discovery call with me. Give me some coaching tips, that kind of thing. So I get into both. I kind of teeter between the two. So.
Okay, that's a good deal. Again, trying to figure out if we can't get you that end client, maybe we can get you in contact with that referral partner that can then get you there. And for myself, I know you've spent a lot of time in corporate. You've had some time in small business, and you've had the ability to write a book. Tell us a little bit about it.
So your audience is actually getting the first preview of which way do we want to go?
Let's share.
There we go. So this is our mock-up. We are in the editing process right now. It's called Big League Growth for Small Businesses. And again, going back to my original comment, the processes we have in enterprise, they're great because they work. Right? They build that sales machine. The challenge that small businesses have is that they don't have the machine in place. The downside, as you well know, of the global companies is there's a whole lot of red tape.
Yes.
So the book is designed as a narrative. You follow a character who is a challenged owner-founder. He has chaos running through his business. And he's struggling to keep up. And so you meet the hero of the story, the mentor, and it walks you through how do we bring the good things of the enterprise world and leave the bad, and grow your business that way. And so hopefully we will be launching here in the next 30 to 45 days, get it out in front of people. But it really is designed to help that owner, founder, small business owner who just needs that kickstart. Where do I begin? How do I start thinking about things in a different manner?
Yes. Awesome. We look forward to it coming out. Please let us know.
I'll send you a copy.
Yes, we'll be more than happy to try to promote it in any way, shape, or form.
Appreciate that.
And that leads perfectly into our next section, because I know with your time in sales, you have seen all scenarios. I know with your time leading the team, you've seen their scenarios. And I know, again, with your training, you have come across and nurtured a bunch of best practices or business skills that have helped you to be successful. My question is if you can share with the audience some of those best practices in hopes that they can strive toward that same success.
So I think one of the challenges that I saw as a sales leader, and it was a habit that was really hard to break, and I see it in my owner founders now, is that ability to ask a question and then shut up and let the prospect talk, right? Just as you're doing with me, you ask me an open-ended question and then let me talk about it, because that's how you learn. As a salesperson, I can never learn anything from my client if I'm the one doing the talking. So I would say the first tip I give to every person is talk less, listen more, and actively listen, right? Not listen to respond, listen to understand and take it in. That's why you oftentimes see me where if I am truly actively listening, it'll take me 2 or 3 seconds to process. Salespeople hate silence for some reason, and they always want to just go back to it. But if you listen and process, then you can understand a whole lot more effectively. So that's one of the things. I think it's good to practice. It's good to have your pitch down. Put it on a note card. I've told people for years, when you've got your value prop down, put it on a note card, stick it to your mirror when you're shaving, brushing your teeth in the morning. It's not a script when it's coming from you. Think of your favorite actors, Al Pacino, Meryl Streep, whoever it is. They're reading off scripts. They don't sound like they're reading off scripts because they've made it their own.
That's right.
So have what you want to say documented so that you can practice it, so that you're comfortable with it, and it becomes just a part of you.
Yes.
When you stammer through things, you show a lack of confidence, you show a lack of understanding, and it reflects in the way that you communicate with your prospect. And then I think the last skill, and it's something I work with all my clients, is have a couple different ways of closing, because every prospect is going to have a different personality, and what would be a good closing technique to work on you might not be a good closing technique to work on with somebody else. So I think those 3 nuggets of information are really key.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. It's very similar to what I share with the sales team. I say you have to have a skeleton. You have to have a skeleton, and the muscle depends on who you're talking with. Yeah. But if you have a skeleton where the bullets are flying and you got to fall back on something, it's there at least, and then you tailor it towards your crowd that you're talking with. So
I'm totally stealing that.
Yes, but that's fine. That's why we do this. You mentioned it. I just said it in a little bit different way, but that's exactly what I tell them, because again, when it gets tough, you're going to fall back on whatever you're the most comfortable with, and if you're at least most comfortable with the main thing, you can add other stuff to it. So thank you so much for sharing that point and sharing all of these other great things about your journey and your business. And we want to kind of turn the corner just a little bit and talk about you. So let's just say that your clients are listening to your advice, now they're at that $10 million mark and they're just sending you over referrals. Time and money is not an issue. What is it that you would do with your time?
Man, so many things. So kind of as a general thing, I love playing golf. So I got out yesterday morning, played 9 holes. I'd probably get to do that a little more if time was not an issue. Love to travel. You know, my wife and I were just talking about trying to get back to Europe next year, so we'd love to do that. And I have a servant philosophy in life. I recently started working with a youth group at church. I've got, I think we're up to 22 freshman boys in my group. They are wonderful and challenging all at the same time. Especially as a girl dad, right? So I've never had a son, but they're challenging, and so I would devote more time to things with them. You know, getting more activities with them. You know, attending their sporting events or attending their plays or whatever the case may be. I think those, if time and money weren't an issue, those would be my 3 areas of engagement, because I can't just sit at home and watch TV. I'd be bored.
Makes sense. I can tell a theme throughout this conversation we've had is mentorship is important. You know, you talked about it early, then as well as talking about what you would do now. So I definitely appreciate you sharing those things. Now, if people have questions about your journey, about your business skills or the business, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Adam Rojas. You can find me there, or Bellmoore Consulting on LinkedIn. You can visit my website, bellmoreconsulting.com. So those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And we always appreciate our guests coming on and sharing. It's not always easy to talk about those ups and downs and all around. You've done a great job of illustrating that, and we want to honor you by giving you the last word. So please look into your camera and tell the people something good.
You know, I would say, and I say this a lot, most small businesses don't have a sales problem. They have a sales process problem. And that's a problem that we can solve together. I'd love to help you solve it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.